Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast. Where today we're going over UFC Vegas 38, Walker versus Santos. First things first, we're on a heater, ladies and gentlemen. We went 5 of 6 on picks in NFL. We went 5 of 6 in picks on UFC last week. Only one was the crazy call of Cynthia Calvillo. I thought she had a wrestling edge. For whatever reason, she decided not to wrestle. You can't call stupid. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. We're popping tabs. We're getting ready for this UFC Fight Night 38. We are hyped. We're on a roll. We're on a heater, and we're ready to continue, baby. Again, you can catch our official picks every Saturday morning on Instagram and Twitter. I am also getting involved on the TikTok scene. But otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave those links over in the description. Otherwise, we're on the UFC Vegas 38, baby. We're trying to keep that train rolling. Not going to waste a second of your time. We're going to get right into it here. So the very, very first fight of the night, we actually have a pretty interesting one here. We have Johnny Eduardo going up against Alejandro Perez. Johnny Eduardo coming in as a plus 185 underdog, Perez minus 245. Both of these guys, honestly, I thought were retired, but apparently are still fighting. So it's going to get pretty interesting here. We'll start with Eduardo. You know why? Because when me and my wife first started dating, she actually took me to a surprise in Cincinnati, where I saw the Matt Brown versus Eric Silva card. Eric Silva at that time was like my second or third favorite fighter, so I was really hyped for that card. Then she just picked a random fighter and said, "This guy is my favorite. I'm going to root for this guy no matter what." And my wife is awesome, and she actually chose Johnny Eduardo, and that's the night that he knocked out Eddie Wineland in the first round. She knew. She has a sixth sense when it comes to Eddie Eduardo, so I should have asked her prior to coming in. Johnny Eduardo. I should have asked her coming into the podcast if he was going to win or not, because apparently she knows, because no one else had him knocking out Eddie Wineland. I mean, in regards to Johnny Eduardo, I mean, his last fight was in 2018. That's a big red flag right now. He's 41 years old. He does have good Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He has decent striking. I know he was a striking coach over at a camp in Brazil. I don't want to try to pronounce it. It's one where Jose Aldo and such were training. The only problem with him is he's extremely hittable. He gets hit more than he gives out. He does have a 4-inch reach advantage in this fight, which I do like a lot, but he's not high volume. He's pretty low volume, even though he's a good striker. And with him being 41 years of age, you start to see his cardio kind of dwindle a little bit. We saw it in the Nathaniel Wood fight. We saw it in the Matthew Lopez fight. I personally don't believe in MMA math, but Matthew Lopez lost to Alejandro, and he beat Johnny Eduardo. So that is a factor that they do have a common opponent. Don't get it twisted. Alejandro is not a good fighter. He last fought in 2019, so it's not like he's actually a beacon of activity. But he is 32, which is a little better than 41. He is 9 years younger. He has pretty decent striking. He has pretty good takedown defense, but you hear about these Mexican warriors and how they never get knocked out, and they're just here to brawl and to just kind of go toe to toe on the feet. But he gets knocked out often for being a Mexican warrior. I mean, Song Yadong took him out in the first round. He lost Cody Staneman. I don't know much about Patrick Williams, but per a really reliable source in Cody Safdie and Paul Sanasi over at this Dogger Pass podcast. This was a club and sub, so he got rocked before he got choked up by Patrick Williams. That's not a good look. I mean, in all honesty, it's not like he has a ton of losses on his record, but he doesn't really have a ton of great wins either. He's not the greatest fighter, but at the same time, Eduardo's 41. Speaking of reliable sources, the Die Hard MMA podcast over at Club Sports Radio is another one that I trust quite often with Clint. And he has a rule that I agree with. Don't bet on 40-year-old fighters. Johnny Eduardo is 41. So at that juncture, I'm kind of staring at the over-under here. Over 2.5 is plus 110. Under 2.5 minus 140. And I think that under is going to hit. Eduardo can finish you on the feet or the ground. Perez can get knocked out or knock you out early on the first. So I'm going to go ahead and, in regards to a bet, I'd actually just take the under minus 140. It's continually getting steamed. Everyone's on it. So I'd bet it sooner rather than later. Next fight of the night, we have Stephanie Egger going up against Shayna Young. Stephanie Egger minus 135 favorite over Shayna Young plus 105. Over 2.5 is minus 240. Under 2.5 plus 190. We're going to go ahead and start with Stephanie Egger. I know her last fight, she got absolutely shit on by Tracy Cortez, but Tracy Cortez is good, man. She's good all around. She's decent on the feet. She's decent, really good wrestling. I understand that Stephanie Egger probably should have had a wrestling edge. So it was a little concerning that she was able to get taken down by Tracy Cortez, but at the same time, that's more of like a judo background. It is different. Tracy Cortez is more of a folk style wrestler, and I don't think everyone realizes the differences there. In regards to Egger, though, yeah, she is like a black belt in judo. She's a brown or black belt in jiu-jitsu as well, so she knows what's going on the ground. She knows how to get it there. Her striking, however, does leave a little to be desired. She's not the greatest striker in the world. She's also not the youngest. She's 33 years old. In regards to her, I'm just looking at it here. I mean, she had some ADCC losses to Gabrielle Garcia, no problems there. She seems to be pretty durable. She hasn't been in a ton of fights, but Mara Barella is a UFC vet. That's all the way back in 2015. That's a win. Her only losses are by decision. One to Tracy, who's nasty, and I don't know anything about Alexa Connors, but there's a split decision, and Invicta is a credible venue, so no problems there. It's just her striking that I really struggle with, so it's a matter if she can get it to the ground or not. Young also has a wrestling background, just like Tracy Cortez did. So initially I had a little bit of a red flag there, but at the same time, I looked at what it was, and she was wrestling in high school, and there's a little bit of a difference there. She also was just coming off of having a child, so she didn't get like 4 months ago. The child is not old per Instagram, so it's not as if she got a ton of training in. So she has very limited training. Yeah, she has a wrestling background, but high school compared to a judo black belt, there's a little bit of a difference there. So I think Egger is going to have the wrestling advantage. So then we're looking at the feet. I will give Shayna the stand-up advantage, but not by much. It's very, very close. And in all honesty, when it comes to the wrestling, I mean, Shayna was getting taken down by Macy Chiasson, who's a Muay Thai striker. That's a little concerning. She should not be getting taken down that easily. Even, I mean, I know these, okay, even looking at it here, I know it was an exhibition bout, but still, Miranda Maverick is a beast. I love Miranda Maverick. But she got taken down and choked out very, very easily and quickly. It took 2 minutes to take her down and tap her out. Sarah Alpar, although Young was winning that fight, when she did get taken down, she had nothing to offer and she got choked out. So if Egger has a wrestling advantage, I am going to go ahead and say that she kind of, at that juncture, I don't think Young has anything to offer off her back. So Shane, if Egger takes her down, Young is in some serious trouble. So at that juncture, the bet would be Egger, and the pick is going to be Egger as well. Next fight of the night is the first dog play. In all honesty, we have Gantino Pararello going up against Douglas Andrade. Douglas over under set at 2.5, under 2.5 plus 110. Douglas is a fraud. Point and simple. When he first came to the UFC, he had a crazy record. It was like 22-0 or something absurd. He is the definition of a can crusher. He definitely had a padded record coming into the UFC. What was he? Yeah, he is 22-0 coming into the UFC. Don't get me wrong. His losses to credible people. Zabira, great fighter. Rob Font, great fighter. Peter Yan, former champ. Laron Murphy, great fighter. So don't get me wrong. He has some pretty credible losses. There's no shame in losing to those guys. But at the same time, his wins, Marlon Vera, good win. I'll give him that. It's not the same Marlon Vera back in 2018, but it is still Marlon Vera. So credible win. Renan Barão, again, not the same guy, a total shell of himself in 2019. Still Renan Barão. But outside of that, these other guys he was fighting are god awful. Like, how are you 20-0 and you're fighting someone, or sorry, you're 19-0, you're fighting someone that's 2-0? Like, he's not really he's 16-0 fighting someone at the 1-1, 1-0, 3-5, 3-8, 2-10, 0-0, 2-2. Like the list goes on and on. It's a totally padded record. He is decent on the feet. He's decent on the ground. His wrestling leaves a little to be desired. He more controls you against the cage more than taking you down. But in retrospect, it's not as if his opponent has any sort of ground game whatsoever. The problem is Douglas is extremely hittable. Even though his schedule is pretty decent in the UFC, he's extremely hittable. I love that he mixes in wrestling, but he doesn't really get the fight to the ground that often. He wants to strike, even though he has a jiu-jitsu background. I don't trust that, especially because I think going up against Pirello, that's all Pirello can do. He is a striker. He's 15-6. All of his losses are him getting taken down and controlled. But again, Douglas isn't the greatest wrestler. Gaetano is a world-class striker. So if Douglas's game plan is to pressure him against the cage and then strike, like he's going against a world-class striker, and I don't like that. Also, Douglas is 36 years old. And he's dropping down to bantamweight. He was struggling making bantamweight, so he had to go up to featherweight. So you really have to watch the weigh-ins here. Again, it's not like Pirello is like a lock by any means. He is a striker. He does have a suspect jiu-jitsu game. It's not there at all. He does have a questionable wrestling game, but he's one of these guys where he is easy to take down, but he pops right back up. And if that's Douglas's game plan is to do what he's supposed to and take you down and try to tap him out, if Pirello is able to get up and continually get up, that's going to tire out a 36-year-old bantamweight. So, in all honesty, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to take the dog here. Plus 200. I think the line is off. So, the pick is going to be Douglas because he's fought the better guys. He has some credible wins. But I can't trust him at minus 260 that he's at if he's going to decide to strike with the world-class striker. So the pick is going to be Andrade, but the bet is actually going to be Pirello. All right, and then that takes us to the next fight of the night. Talk about things I don't really want to bet, but I feel like I have to. It's Devante Smith at minus 150 against Jamie Malarkey at plus 120. I'm over under set at 1.5. We'll start with Jamie Malarkey. In all honesty, they're on a roll right now over in Australia. They are on a roll. Dan Hooker looked phenomenal. Volkanovski looked phenomenal. Izzy has been looking phenomenal. Everyone from Australia is just killing it at City Kickboxing. Jamie Malarkey is the definition of a generalist, though. He has decent striking, decent wrestling, decent ground game. He is super hittable. He's not super strong. He's kind of lower volume than I expected when I looked at the numbers. And he does kind of slow down a little at the end. It's not that he gasses or even really slows. He just kind of tempers his pace to an extent. So Jamie Malarkey is the ultimate dog. Every single fight he goes into, he's going to be a dog, and he's definitely going to get a lot of dog wins. It's just Devante Smith is a different animal. Solely on the fact that he has really good striking, man. Looking at it, I know Devante Smith is generally a he grew up with a wrestling background. I actually have a friend who knows him personally over in Cleveland in regards to his wrestling. Shout out Chris Summers. But in regards to the fight itself, I mean, his striking is head and shoulders better than Malarkey, and he hits like a truck. Malarkey does not hit hard whatsoever. Devante Smith, if he catches you clean once, you're out. So if Jamie's not able to get the fight to the ground, because Devante does have good wrestling, Devante has a striking advantage in regards to the speed and the power. I know that you look at his record and he's 11-2, and you think he might have a suspect chin because John Gunther took him out. Kama Worthy took him out. The difference is, I think Justin James hits harder than Kama Worthy. It's just Kama Worthy is someone that Devante Smith trained with, and he just didn't really have that killer mentality going up against a friend. John Gunther, fighting over on the regional scene. I mean, at least John Gunther was in the UFC. You'll know him from the Ultimate Fighter, that Alpaca guy. But in retrospect, like, it was an early fight. It was his fifth professional fight. It's going to happen. And it was in the third round, so he might have slowed down a little bit. Otherwise, I mean, he's going out there and he's finishing. The dude hits like a truck. He has a 2-inch reach advantage, and he's super high volume compared to Jamie. So I think he outclassed him on the feet, and I think he has good enough wrestling to keep it on the feet. So at that juncture, the pick is going to be Devante, and it's only minus 150. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bet Devante as well. Throw him in some parlays there. Trust that he can keep it on the feet. Next fight of the night, I know I had the aforementioned Die Hard MMA podcast. We said we don't bet on retiring fighters. Bet Correa has said she was retiring her last 4 fights. So I'm going to keep fading her. And every time I do, it seems to work. The last time she won, I mean, she is on a one. I mean, Panty was actually her last fight. I forgot about that Soraya fight, but the Sarge Eubanks fight was suspect. I thought Eubanks did enough to win. That was kind of a sketchy decision, but she lost to Home, lost to Aldana. She's really only losing to the top of the top. I mean, Betch is a plus 365 favorite, plus 365 underdog for a reason. Carol Rosa comeback, minus 550 and growing. Over 2.5 is steamed at minus 320 the last time I checked. Under 2.5 plus 250. And again, Betch, she's also a general. She has okay striking, but she refuses to move her head. She's 38 years old, so she talks about retirement. She's flirting with it. She needs to do it. Stop saying it's your retirement fight and then keep fighting, because it's not looking well for you. She can get backed up. I don't see her wrestling often. I mean, in all honesty, she's just really kind of a punching bag. She hits hard. She has that shoot a box style, and she's coming at you. But if you're coming at her, she has no head movement, and she kind of backs up a little. On the flip side, you have Carol Rosa. Carol Rosa is nasty on the ground. I shouldn't say nasty. She's good on the ground, but it's getting better and better. And on the feet, oh my God, she throws so much volume, super high volume. Her wrestling's okay. I saw her take down a plethora of opponents. Her cardio checks out. She moves forward at all times. The only problem with her is she doesn't have a lot of power. But in retrospect, I mean, this is an easy win for her. There's a reason she's a minus 550 going on like minus 600 favorite. She's 26, so she's just about to enter her prime. I love Carol Rosa. I think Carol Rosa is very, very good. You look at her losses. I have no idea who Larissa Pocaccio is or her first loss. I know nothing about them, but I did see the Melissa Gatto fight. And I do know about Melissa Gatto. Melissa Gatto's pretty nasty on the ground. Carol Rosa was whooping her ass and got caught in a Kimura. I mean, at that point, it was 2018, so that was 4 years ago. She was like 22 years old. Like, you get caught, things happen, and she learned from it. She's been on a tear ever since. And I believe in Carol Rosa a ton. The problem is, even though I pick her to win, I can't really bet her. It's minus 600 in some books. So I'd probably bet her by decision, because again, the only con I have on Carol Rosa is her power. She has none of it. So I say she outvolumes her, and she just kind of picks her apart on the feet. So the pick will be Carol Rosa. The bet would be Carol Rosa by decision, and hope that you can get a little better value on that. If not, just take the over at minus 320, but that's even steam. So you may not be able to bet that fight, even though she's a lock. Unfortunately, that's way too much chalk. Speaking of chalk, we have Casey O'Neill coming in at 7-0 up against the bad Shevchenko, Antonina Shevchenko. Now, Casey O'Neill minus 225, Antonina plus 175. Over 2.5 is minus 140. Under 2.5 is plus 110. Let's start with our girl Casey O'Neill. I loved this girl from the start. From her very, very first fight against Shayna Dobson, I said she was going to absolutely be a stud in the UFC. And so far, she has been. I'll be honest with you. Her second fight against Laura Procopio, I love Laura too. I think she was done wrong being let go by the UFC. They need to bring Laura back. And I was all over Laura that fight. I'll be honest with you. I thought Laura was going to kill her. And you know what? The first round, she did. That's the problem we have with Casey. Casey has phenomenal cardio. She does not stop. Her wrestling is good. I want to say it's great, but it's not. It's really not. It's a matter of her being persistent. Her cardio is great, and she doesn't stop. And eventually, she wears you down, and she gets those takedowns just off of persistence. Her striking, god awful. She is the definition of hittable. She's going to get KO'd one of these days. She is going to get cracked. She gets cracked all the time. She just walks through it, and I don't know how many times she's going to be able to do so. So her striking is a little questionable, but on the flip side, her wrestling's good. Her jiu-jitsu is great. She tapped out Laura, and again, Laura is Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, family bred, but so is Casey. So is Casey. Casey can strike. Don't get me wrong. It's not that it's god awful. It's her striking defense that's god awful. Now, that does concern me a little against Antonina, because yes, Casey O'Neill is undefeated, but she hasn't fought the greatest competition. She's able to kind of walk through everyone. Antonina, on the flip side, is world class when it comes to striking. So whenever they're on the feet, it is very, very concerning for Casey, because Antonina is one that can put her out, took those lights out real easily. You look at her losses, she got submitted, she got ground and pounded. I'm sorry, she got laid and prayed by Caitlin Chukagian, who's a striker. Andrea Lee is a striker, took her down and tapped her out. Roxanne Modafferi was able to take her down and hold her down, and those are her losses. So obviously there's a very clear method to beat Antonina, which is to take her down and hold her down. And in all honesty, Casey's not going to hold her. She's going to take her down and tap her out, kind of like Andrea Lee did. The problem is when they're on the feet, it is not even close. Antonina is like an A compared to Casey's like B plus. But when it comes to wrestling, Casey is an A and Antonina is a D plus. On the ground, I would also have to give the edge to Casey. That's why she's a minus 225 favorite. She should be totally deserved. My concern is every fight starts on the feet. Antonina is going to murder her on the feet. Casey has to shoot immediately, and she's not going to do that. She walks through the fire, gets cracked about 4 times, and then takes someone down. So the pick is going to be Casey. The bet, on the other hand, I'm looking at this under. Right now, it was at plus 110. I actually checked it out earlier today. It was even money. Jump on it now before it's the favorite. I don't see this fight going 2.5 rounds. Either Antonina cracks Casey and she is out cold quickly, or Casey takes her down and grounds and pounds her or submits her. I don't know which one. I would just say Casey inside the distance. Either way, both of them have very, very big ways of finishing the fight. It's just a matter of which one imposes their will. So don't fuck around and choose who's going to win. Just take the under 2.5 while it's plus money. It's not going to be plus money long. Money is coming in on that under quickly. Next fight of the night. Antonina is not a bad dog choice, but this next fight is probably my favorite dog. I have Jared Gordon coming in at plus 115 against Joe Selecki minus 145. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is minus 202. Under 2.5 plus 162. Let's start with Flash Gordon, man. Everyone talks about his story, how he died and came back to life. I think he had a drug overdose and came back or something of that magnitude, just kind of like Matt Brown, kind of like a Michael Chiesa. Kind of a similar story here. I'll tell you something about Flash Gordon. Yeah, he has a few losses on here. You would question his durability because he has 4 losses and he's been finished in all 4. Here's the problem. He got finished by Jeff Lentz, but it was a doctor stoppage. It's not like he got taken out. He got taken out by Diego Ferreira, who is a top 10 lightweight, got taken out by Joaquim Silva, and he was whooping Joaquim Silva's ass, and Joaquim came back and finished him. Joaquim's last fight was at welterweight. That's a big dude, right? He also got taken out by Charles Oliveira, who is the current UFC lightweight champion. So it's not like he's just going out there and getting murdered. He got taken out by the champ, the top 10 guy, and someone that now fights at welterweight. I mean, come on. It's not the worst in the world. Then you also look at his wins. It's not the greatest wins. I mean, Danny Chavez is an okay win. Chris Fishgold, not the greatest. And I'm just looking down here, not a lot of notable names. So I think Jared Gordon is also a generalist. He has very good cardio. Or sorry, yeah, he has great cardio. He has very good wrestling. He has very good striking. And he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He is also a generalist, but he's very good at everything. He just has a suspect chin against the top of the creme de la creme. He also moved over to Sanford, and that's the thing. He is a critic of himself, and he watched that Chris Fishgold win. Said he looks extremely slow. He's never going to fight like that again. Went to Sanford MMA, came back against Donnie Chavez, and looked like an absolute stud. That was also at featherweight. He's going back up to lightweight. He is someone that struggles on the scale often. So I love Jared Gordon as a dog here, but I do need to see him on the scale. The reason I love him as a dog is because Joe Solecki has phenomenal Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This dude is nasty on the ground. Joe Solecki is an ace on the ground. On the feet, it's not that his striking is bad. I just think he's extremely slow. I've never seen a slower 28-year-old in the lightweight division. He is not fast. I don't know what his deal is. He also does not have a lot of volume, nor does he have great wins. I mean, Jim Miller is he's like in his 40s. Matt Weinman is actually in his 40s. Austin Hubbard is not the worst win. It's a pretty decent win, but Austin Hubbard is a striker. He was able to tap him out. Otherwise, his competition is extremely, extremely low. I personally think Joe Solecki is a little overrated. It's just a personal thing. I do think he's that good on the ground, but I think that's all he has to offer. And Jared is a good enough wrestler, being a generalist. He's a good enough jiu-jitsu practitioner to stay safe. If Jared and Jared has a clear striking advantage. So it really comes down to, I think, with the wrestling, it's 50-50. If Jared manages to have the better wrestling and is able to keep it standing, he's going to kill Solecki on the ground. On the feet. If Jared gets taken down or even initiates a takedown, if Jared takes Solecki down, I saw Solecki off his back against Jim Miller, and I was not impressed. He just held on and gave up the round. If Jared can take him down, I like Jared there too. I think he's going to be defensively sound enough to stay on top and not get choked out. So the pick is going to be Jared. The bet's going to be Jared. I like it. It's going to be one of my favorite dogs of the night. But make sure you watch the scales. If Jared comes in looking shaky like he does 50% of the time, it might be time to kind of just leave that alone in general. Speaking of leaving fights alone, we have Alexander Hernandez, a minus 600 favorite, which never sounds good, against Mike Breeden. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 is minus 172. Over 1.5 at plus 142. And we'll start with Alexander the Great. He has pretty decent striking. It's not great. It's not bad. It's good. He has good wrestling. It's very underrated. His problem is that he is a little hittable. He gets hit more than he actually dishes out. And he does slow down in fights. You get him in the third round, and he will start to. He doesn't gas per se, but he does slow down. I know he made a lot of moves and went to Factory X Muay Thai, opposed to the gym he was at previously. He's doing everything right. He's still young enough to make those improvements. He's 28 years old. He's going to be a decent fighter. He has some good wins already. I mean, Beneil Dariush, if they ran that back, I feel like Beneil wins 8 times out of 10, but he caught him, man. He got him. Francisco Ronaldo is a savvy vet. He got the win, even though I thought Ronaldo probably should have got that decision nod. He did what he did. Chris Gutzmacher, I mean, he's not the greatest fighter in the world, but it's an okay win. Like, he's doing what he has to do. Like, it's not that I have problems with Alex. It's just you never know what version you're going to get. Sometimes you get a world beater in Alex, like you did against Chris Gutzmacher. Sometimes you get the Drew Dober or Donald Cerrone Alex, where he just doesn't show up. So you don't know what you're doing. So that's the problem with him being minus 600. I understand why he's minus 600. Mike Breeden is not good. The main reason he's even in the UFC is because he's a pupil of James Krause. James Krause is a phenomenal coach. Love James Krause as a coach. Mike has okay striking, but he's pretty hittable as well. His wrestling's a little questionable. I definitely say Alex has a wrestling advantage, but Mike has pretty good cardio. So I mean, if Mike is going to win this fight, he's going to have to weather the storm of Alex. Um, excuse me, and then go ahead and try to finish him late. In regards to the pick and the bet, I think Alex is just too good to get finished. So I think Alex is going to win at least the first 2 rounds. I think Breeden's probably going to win the third. It's just a matter if it's a 10-8 or if it's a 10-9 for Breeden or if he finishes him in the third. So at that juncture, I'll pick Alex to win. He's definitely a bet. He'll be better for 10 minutes at least. But the bet, I'd actually take the over. I think Breeden's going to be smart enough. He's 32. He's not like a little young kid coming in as a debutant. Like he knows what's going on, and he has James Krause in his corner. So I'll actually take. He's pretty durable too. So I'll take Alex to win, but I think Mike Breeden will survive. So if I have to bet it, I would actually bet the over 2.5 at -172, and I feel fairly confident in that. Next fight of the night, we have Aspen Ladd coming up against Macy Chazon. As aforementioned, we have Aspen coming in as a -285 favorite. God. Up against Macy is a +215 dog. Over 2.5 is -182. Under 2.5 is +147. I'll tell you right now, the pick is going to be Aspen, but these odds are making me want to bet Macy. Problem with Aspen is her striking is not very good. It's high volume. She has great cardio. I talked about Casey's cardio. She has great cardio as well. She doesn't stop moving forward. She has some decent wins here against Sarge Eubanks. Tanya Evinger. I mean, it's a decent win, I guess. Man, she beat Sarge twice. She beat her Invicta too. But like in retrospect, her striking's not the greatest. It's okay. Her wrestling again is okay, but it's the same thing as Casey, where it's not the greatest, but the cardio is so good that she's so persistent she'll get you down eventually. The problem with Aspen is she's coming off a major leg surgery, and she also has weigh-in issues. So my biggest thing is she was cutting down to make the weight. This fight got canceled. And then rebooked because I think Macy had like COVID or an injury or something happened, and Macy had to pull out, but they rebooked the same fight. And it got pulled out like day of the fight. So like Aspen was making weight. She's someone that struggles with weight. So for her to make weight and then come back 3 months, I guess is enough time, honestly. I was going to say, I thought it was a little closer and I think it would affect her a little more. But she got a decent amount of time here, 3 months to do it again. That's actually fine. I recant my statement, but I do have concerns about her coming off a major leg surgery, especially with her being someone that needs to push the pace and going against a Muay Thai striker. That is a little concerning. Macy's definitely going to try to chop that leg down. And Macy's Muay Thai is pretty good, man. It's not bad. She has a decent amount of power. She knows what's going on the ground, at least enough to stay safe if Aspen takes her down. And Aspen probably will take her down because Macy does not have the best takedown defense. And again, she pulled out, so I don't know. I can't recall the reason she pulled out, but there was something wrong with her. So I don't really like her coming back after having to pull out of a fight. I do like that she's at Fortis MMA. She did beat Shayna Young, as aforementioned. Marion Renault, not the greatest win. Gina Mazzani, not the greatest one. Panty's an okay. Panty Kianset is a decent win, but she doesn't have a lot of great wins on her record. That's probably the best one she has. Eesh. And she gets taken down in every fight. Shayna Young took her down. Marion Renault took her down. Sarah Moras took her down. These girls aren't wrestlers, so that's a little concerning. And her one loss, Lena Landsberg, was on her ass and just pressured her the whole fight, and that's all Aspen does. So I will have to pick Aspen again as a pick. It's just scary to bet her at these odds, -285 when she's coming off major surgery. I probably feel better betting the over 2.5. And it's honestly better odds and more money. So the pick is going to be Aspen. The bet's going to be over 2.5. And then next fight of the night, we have Krzysztof Jotko at -155 going up against Misha Serkinov at +125. It's a Misha fight, baby. So the over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 150. Under 1.5 plus 125. We'll go ahead and we'll start with Misha. 15-6. 205 pounds, but in a 185-pound frame. And he's finally dropping down to 185. I don't know if that's going to be a good or a bad thing. I can't recall the last time I saw him down at that weight. So definitely watch the weigh-ins with Misha Serkinov. He starts super, super fast. He is great wrestling. He's bodying people at 205, so he should have the big strength advantage at 185. This jiu-jitsu is pretty good, in all honesty. His striking leaves a little to be desired, and he gasses. That's why it's set at 1.5. This dude is kill or be killed. His chin is a little questionable, and that's because he gasses so badly. He's not a spring chicken. I mean, he's 34 years old, but the way he fights, you would think he's in his 40s, like Johnny Eduardo. He has a pretty good schedule, though. I mean, he fought Jimmy Crute's good. Ryan Spann is okay. He just headlined. Glover Teixeira is about to fight for a title. Volkan has fought for a title. Nikita Krylov is good. Ian Cutelaba is good. I mean, he's fighting good fighters. He's getting good wins. He's losing to the top of the top, but everything is soon. I mean, let's look at his fights, man. Round one, round one, round one, round one, round one, round two, round three, round one, round one, round one, round one, round one, round one. Like, they don't make it out of the first round. Whether he wins or he loses, it's in the first round. And that's why it's set at 1.5. The problem I have with this is Krzysztof Jotko is not a finisher by any means. Krzysztof Jotko, yeah, he's 22-5. He's also a generalist. He's okay striking. He's okay wrestling. He's okay grappling. So, I mean, the wrestling and grappling advantage is going to be for Misha. It's just a matter if he finishes Krzysztof, because he's okay everywhere. I mean, look at the complete opposite, man. You have Strickland decision, Anders decision, round 3, round 2, decision. So, like, you have a decision fighter going up against a round winner bust finisher. Misha's a good wrestler. He's a good jiu-jitsu practitioner. Krzysztof is just a generalist. Yeesh. The problem is the over under is set at 1.5. If it was 2.5, it'd be a lock. 1.5 plus money, I like for both of them to be able to finish. I just don't think Krzysztof's going to be able to finish him early. I think Krzysztof wears on him, and I think Krzysztof sucks, but he's enough to beat Misha. But Misha's plus money too. He has such a strength advantage. This is a total dogger pass. I think about total dogger pass. So the pick will be Misha. The bet would be Misha, but stay away from it. Just don't bet this fight. It's not a safe one by any means. All right. And then we're almost done here. And again, I do want to remind you, we're 10 fights in. The picks will come out on Saturday after the weigh-ins. It's going to be over on Instagram, over on Twitter, and the description for those will be in the link, or the link will be in the description for you to get over to the Instagram, over to the Twitter. Make sure you give the tweet a like. Make sure you give the page a follow. Every follow, every like the video. Everything helps out. But going over to the next fight, we have Nico Price up against Alex Oliveira. Alex Oliveira is a plus 145 dog against Nico Price minus 185 favorite. This over under set at 1.5. I totally get it. They're both kind of finishers. But I don't know. I mean, looking at it here, Nico's cool. Nico's exciting. Battle of the dads. Nico has like 6 kids. Oliveira has like, I think 9, but probably realistically has like 28. Nico has he's the definition of power. He doesn't look like much, but this dude cracks. He has wins from hammer fists off his back. He has up kick finishes. Like, this dude is a finisher no matter what. And even looking at his losses, he's getting finished by Vicente Luque, Jeff Neal. He's also Abdul Razak Al Hassan. He's kill or be killed, literally. The problem is that he is a little hittable. That's part of it there. But his striking's good, power good. He pressures a ton. He does slow down a touch. He used to, but he actually put on the pressure his last fight against Michel Pereira in the later rounds. High volume. I like Nico a lot. He can wrestle, but he doesn't like to do it. He has okay jujitsu, but it's nothing to write home about. He's just kind of there. He's predominantly just a brawler. The good news for him is that Alex Oliveira is a jiu-jitsu practitioner that also likes to brawl. So his striking's okay. He's pretty fast. I actually will probably give Oliveira the speed advantage, but he gasses, man. He's someone that used to fight at lightweight. He looked a lot better at lightweight, but he just can't make the weight anymore. I mean, hell, he's missing weight at welterweight now. His jiu-jitsu, again, like I said, it's good, but he's getting choked out just because these guys are too big for him. He's really low volume. So I mean, at that juncture, if Nico is high volume, Alex is low volume. Alex doesn't want to wrestle and just do jiu-jitsu anymore. He wants to brawl. I gotta give the advantage to Nico. And the bet's not crazy. I mean, the pick is gonna be Nico for sure. The over under at 1.5. I don't know. I'm just gonna stay away from that. The 1.5 under probably hits, but I feel a lot safer. Minus 185 is not too crazy, so I'll actually pick Nico and bet Nico. And that's going to take us to the co-main event of the evening. We have Kevin Holland, minus 165 favorite up against Kyle Dawkins, plus 130. Over 2.5 is minus 162. Under 2.5 at plus 132. We'll start with Big Mouth. He's Big Mouth for a reason. All he does is talk during his fights. Doesn't take anything seriously. He's someone I really struggle to bet, just because of his attitude. Like, he's a nice guy and all, but if you're putting money on the line, I need someone to take the fight a little seriously. He has great striking. He's super skinny, big reach, but does have some power along with, for whatever reason, with him being skinny, he does have some serious power. It's underrated ground game. Everyone talks about how bad his wrestling is because it is god awful. It's probably the worst in the middleweight division. However, no one's like taking him out and pounding him out or finishing him because he is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He knows what's going on the ground. He's good on the ground. When he got taken down by Jacare and then get tapped out, for God's sake. So the dude's solid on the ground, solid on the feet. Wrestling is the issue. His cardio also a little bit of an issue, but this is only a 3-round fight, so he'll be perfectly fine. 5-round fights, I'd probably lean off a little. He does go forward. He's an overall decent fighter. I know he talks about going to welterweight repeatedly, yet he can't stop taking fights. He like has a fight addiction. He has to keep taking them if there's one available at middleweight. So I mean, this is another middleweight fight. So even though he's talking about going to welterweight, he might still have a slight size advantage over Kyle Dawkins. And if the name looked familiar, yes, it's Chris Dawkins' little brother. And Kyle's good, man. I know he's 10-2. His 2 losses both came in the UFC. He lost to Brendan Allen, who's a stud. He lost to Phil Hawes. He's not the worst guy in the world. Dawkins' striking is improving. He showed it a ton in that Phil Hawes fight. His striking is getting better. It's not where it needs to be yet, but it is getting better. He's a jiu-jitsu ace. The problem is I don't think he's going to tap out Kevin Holland at all. His wrestling's okay, but I mean, I could take down Kevin Holland, so he's going to have a clear wrestling advantage. His cardio is good. He seems to push the pace at the end of the fight where Holland seems to slow down a little. So everything Holland, I mean, I don't know. I don't like this fight at all because my mind wants to bet Holland because he has such an advantage on the feet. In retrospect, Dawkins' wrestling advantage is going to be pretty significant, and they're both Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. It reminds me a lot of the Casey O'Neill Antonina fight. Do you take the striker or the wrestler? I always lean wrestler, and I leaned wrestler for the Casey fight, picking her. But Dawkins is plus money, and if I lean wrestlers, I mean, odds are I should take the wrestler here. I just don't feel good about it. It's such a striking advantage for Holland. The pick is going to be Holland. I'll side with Vegas there. But if I'm going to bet it, I can't even bet the over-under just because if Holland wins, he's going to knock Dawkins out. If Dawkins wins, it's going to go over. So you're really just picking the fighter regardless. So I'm going to have to, unfortunately, go dog or pass there. The pick will be Holland. I wouldn't bet it, but if you have to bet it, I'd bet Dawkins to just ground and pound and hold him and control him on the ground. And that takes us to the main event, baby. We got Johnny Walker going up against Thiago Santos. Johnny Walker is a plus 130 dog and Thiago Santos minus 165 favorite. It's a 5-round fight. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 is minus 110. Under 1.5 at minus 120. Let's start with Johnny Walker because there's not much to say. Johnny Walker, great striker, great power, huge reach advantage in this matchup. Thiago used to be a middleweight. I'm telling you right now, it's a 6-inch reach advantage for Johnny Walker, so that's huge. It's just he keeps hands super low. It's kind of hittable. He gets hit a ton, and he gasses quickly. After 2 rounds, he has nothing left. So I mean, if he runs into someone with great cardio and a great chin, he's going to get killed every time. Corey Anderson took him out. That's suspect. Nikita Kraloff was able to take him out. I will not take him out, but beat him and control him. And he does have some losses here via like knockout submission. He's getting finished, and it's like he got finished early against Henrique Silva. He got submitted in the second round where he's probably gassing and taken down. He got knocked out in the second round late where he's probably gassing and got taken out. He only has 2 rounds of cardio, and that's a little concerning. Thiago, we know he can go 5 rounds, but Thiago's older. I mean, Johnny Walker's 29. Great power, great striking. But Thiago also has great power and great striking. It's just Thiago should have the better gas tank. He does. He has a decent gas tank. He slowed down against Glover Teixeira, but that was a one-time ordeal. He was also coming off of major knee surgeries. I mean, his knees still aren't the best now. He's 37 years old. He tore both his ACLs in that title fight. God, this is such a hard fight to call. He also has good striking, but he's also been taken out early. I mean, who was it that took him out? David Branch took him out in round 1. Johnny Walker definitely hits harder. Gegard Mousasi took him out round 1. Johnny Walker definitely hits harder. Eric Spicely took him out round 1. Ugh. But Uriah Hall hits like a truck, and he was able to survive there too. So I don't know. He's all over the place. He got knocked out by Vicente Luque, who's a welterweight now. God, this fight's awful. And I want to just bet the under, but it's at 1.5. And Thiago's trying to slow the pace. So this is what I would do. The pick is going to be Thiago. The bet, I'd either put Thiago in some parlays and then just hedge with Johnny inside the distance. That way you have some good plus money. Or I would just take dog or pass straight up. But I'd probably put Thiago in like a 3-fighter parlay. And then at that juncture, you can take Johnny and put some serious money on him inside the distance because that's the only way he wins. So pick his Thiago, bet. Honestly, both of them. Otherwise, that is the Stats and Stacks podcast for UFC Vegas 38, Santos versus Walker. Again, we are on a heater. The weigh-ins are going to be big for some of these decisions where I'm kind of 50-50 on. Make sure you check over at Instagram, over on Twitter at Stats and Stacks podcast. I will post some TikToks as well with the dog picks, with the locks, and with the totals. Otherwise, let's keep this train rolling, baby. We're rolling, and let's get it. Have a great day.